All right. So pretty sloppy week. Pretty much just covering what we talked about on Tuesday. It was a matter of which POI hit first and why. And by why I mean how. Pretty much how price approached said POI and why that should give us a reaction in the opposite direction. So nothing changed in terms of in terms of what our overall direction is. But an issue here now is the fact that we took 2 to 3 days to reach either POI, right? So if we are since we just came into the POI that we referenced on Tuesday, right? And even if you wanted to study the reaction that's occurring, right, which as you can see isn't the best so far, we could see a bit of optimism into a internal range premium, but the issue is that it's Friday, and the reason why that's an issue to me is because I'm now referencing how we will potentially close this week. How we will close this week, because our monthly closure is, I believe, on Tuesday. I'm sorry, it's a 31 day month. But with that being said, right, it's a bit harder for me to now justify this POI because there is a chance that we close extremely bearish and next week we don't do much, so that would signify, you know, a very weird monthly candle. So for now, if I am trying to play this range, I obviously need to understand where structure currently is internally and where order flow is internally. So the first thing I can see here is where we reacted to come into our second POI. So with that being said, currently we are in bearish order flow, we are in bearish structure, and as you can see, liquidity was just taken to create a new low. So technically we are bearish, because if we're looking at our structural point here, as we said, it is still bullish, right? I'm studying the move to the downside. So we already had a potential solidified low, and that solidified low inevitably failed, right? And it created equal lows. So when that came and we then started to create a bullish run, right, that then cleared liquidity. So because that cleared liquidity, our solidified low has been taken. So because the solidified low has been taken, right, it more so inclines me to essentially more so be more, I said that so wrong. I mean, I'm favoring the bearish bias more. That's what I mean. So with that being said, with the solidified points, right, I now see where we currently are in terms of intraday structure. So as you can see, the move today, right, is pretty much showing its hand for next week. As for now, I don't see this moving too much, especially with such a strong bearish closure. And with that being said, I do see this just continuing lower now. And like we said before, if we're now bearish here and we end up clearing the next significant low, then this is now a bearish liquidity grab. So excuse me. So with that being said, if that is the picture that is painted, we now have a lot of reason to at least come back down here. All right, and if we significantly take that, then I don't see why we don't start coming back into our lower targets. And with that being said, that would also be in confluence now, once again, with the overall structural range that we have been noting for the past couple of months. So with that being said, I can now reference my other pairs, right? So AU, very interesting, right? The POI we referenced, I believe 2-3 weeks ago, it was the 2-day wick. I believe it was last week, right? We referenced this, that although we are bearish, we are, you know, very overextended, and we are essentially inside of a very major POI. And so that has created a very strong reaction to the upside, right? So now when I'm reading structure, right, I'm referencing my immediate leg, right? This is my immediate leg. This is the last time we had a pullback, which then led to internal bearish structure up until here. So this solidifies my low. This is my structural range intact. So because we have now taken this, right, and we've even continued higher, I'm now trying to see where we are reacting from here. And as you can see, it is H4 inefficiency. H4 inefficiency has now given a strong reaction. Strong reaction took previous structure, right, making this a solidified high. Solidified high, right, is now taken lower through bearish structure up until here, making this our solidified low, right? So technically, right, technically this is bearish before today. All right, let me just note these. Right, so that is technically bearish in terms of today. Right now, right, the first thing that I'm noticing is what happened in this wick. Right, we gave an initial reaction, but this is still bullish coming into the POI. Right, and I mean low, high, low, high, low, high, still bullish. So this created, right, a new high, internal structural range, right? But we immediately came and took out preliminary structure, so making this a potential liquidity grab, right? And as we said, the three things that can happen in a POI are open, 50%, or liquidity grab. So because that internal liquidity grab occurred and we gave a very deep retracement, 1 tap, 2 tap, weak bullish order flow here, right? I don't want to, actually, I don't even want to say weak, but I don't want to say strong, because if it was strong, then this single reaction would have created new highs. So I'll just say weak for the time being. So this then came into probably 50% inefficiency, created a bearish narrative, internal SR here. And depending on how you look at candles, you could see a 50% reaction depending on how you look at candles. If we dive in deeper, probably see something else. You can see all right, that's being annoying, but just for reference issues here, I mean for reference there, you can see the final wick that created a downside move. That another wick there, you could see it, right, wick there. That is a valid sell to the downside because we had an LG plus reaction, internal break of structure, right? We are still bearish until we create a continuation BOS, solidifying the structural range, low momentum, justified sell scenario. Justified sell scenario right, created a very strong reaction, making it valid, right? So because this then came to take not only the previous POI, but even took everything completely, even a preliminary structure point here, that now invalidates that. So can somebody tell me what this is here? Can somebody tell me what that is? Oh, wait. My phone. No, that's not the term. No, that's... Thank you. Structural disruption. Right, structural disruption, right? A failed bearish mitigation, justified sell scenario, which then came to be taken out, then creates, right, a newly found bullish scenario. Right? So, if you're able to catch this, this is your high probability scenario, because this in itself, right, is signifying to me where direction is going, because we gave a strong reaction to one side and then inevitably, or not inevitably, but consequentially, took everything out, right? Making this a structural disruption, justified sell scenario, invalidation. Justified bullish scenario, invalidation, and that is a very strong move to the upside, right? But this isn't only what this means. Does anybody know what else this means besides this being a very strong bullish scenario? Right, the hint is right here. What does this mean? No. Think, how do I say it without giving you the answer? Think Wyckoff principle. No. Think bigger. That's just an internal thing. Optimism, an internal thing. Optimism to me would have been this move here in itself. But what does the entire thing mean? No. Close, but no. Close, but no. Cause and effect. Thank you. So, cause has now dictated a new narrative, right? So now, any discount is a highly probable bullish scenario, because not only has the structural disruption taken out major structure points here and here, but it's given us a bias now that is in confluence with what potentially could be happening with DXY, right? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Cool. Cool. Moving on to EU. Same thing here. Same thing. Just distinct in terms of how the idea was portrayed. Right, so Tuesday was the 24th. Okay, 24th. So off the bat, the first thing that I notice is the fact that, right, we had a POI, came for a liquidity grab there, causing a bullish narrative. So the bullish narrative, once again, structural disruption, even disruption, order flow disruption, order flow disruption from the open to then be taken out creates a structural range, and today we were just given a premium for bullish narrative. Right, so bullish narrative now, right, gives us a confluence that we could see higher price movement up until at least previous liquidity, right? But if we then take that out, then this is another order flow disruption, which means we can now aim up here, right? So the bias doesn't change unless we have another structural disruption to the downside, a major breaker structure to the downside, or anything like that. GU, GU. This is the weird one. This is one that I'm really trying to focus too much on. Just because it doesn't fit as nice as AU and EU did. Because as you can see, the POI hasn't even been taken yet. So for all we know, this could still cause a liquidity grab to the downside, right? But however, you've already seen, right, a willingness to continue lower and a break to the upside. But yeah, this one's the weird one. I don't really want to touch this currently, but if we are in doubt, we zoom out, right? And as you can see, that's a very strong bullish closure, and that would make that a very strong bullish week. But it's still a bit iffy for me, if I'm being honest. Still a bit iffy. Just because these are much more clear. But yeah, this could also signify the fact that our break of structure has also, right, this has been bearish this entire time up until here, making the solidified low, making that unwillingness. So that's what that could signify, which would also dictate another bullish bias. All right, so does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions? Pretty quick lecture today. I feel like the EU explanation made a lot of sense though. Cool. Does anybody have any questions? Let's see, who do we have on call today? Ash, any scenarios for me today? Let's see. Cool, pretty much same people. All good, all good. But yeah, let's see. I do have to. No, I have time. If you guys need anything, I do have time. I have another hour at least. And for my football fans, Ronaldo just signed for Man U like right now. So that's pretty sick. No, I'm serious. Breaking news. Wow, that's insane. Oh yeah. I mean, look at all the top teams right now. No, Man City backed out this morning, like 2-3 hours ago. They just backed out 2-3 hours ago. Let me see, is Rob on the call? No, he's not. Let me send him this. But yeah, do you guys have any questions? Cool, anybody? Do you trade gold? No, not really. I know Kos has been on that for like... Oh yeah, bullish as well. That's insane, I remember this. This was like 2 weeks ago, I believe. 3 weeks ago now. That's insane. But yeah, that looks very bullish. If I'm being honest, that looks pretty bullish. You could say the argument of equal lows, but... Yeah, I don't know about that. That is a very big rejection, yeah. Very big rejection. Monthly. Yeah, that looks very bullish. Unless, let's see. Turbulence point unless liquidity is cleared and you then get a bearish scenario. That's the only way I could see us coming for liquidity. But that would also be considered a type of break of structure. Breaking this would be a type of break of structure, solidifying the low, and then there would be a high once that is solidified. All of this is technically counter trend, and if anything, you would be looking for a discount continuation. So yeah, I would say bullish, but this is looking a bit tricky. Cool, but yeah, not a question, but what I did, what you said about my new approach. And what was that? Yep. So let me show you guys something. This is something I was gonna make on YouTube, but I'm gonna show you guys something. And I think this is why a lot of people do well with what we show, why we show it, blah blah blah. So there is 4 main things that I think, or just based on everything that I show you guys, is essentially what are the foundations as a trader, like quote unquote foundations. So your foundation number 1 is your beginner foundation. Then we have our strategy that we are trading, right? And the strategy that we are trading, right, obviously is explained in the introduction videos, and the overall approach that you're wanting to take. So based on the strategy that you are trading, you create a trading plan. Your trading plan is every single rule, every single concept, everything in terms of risk management, trade management, trade executions, bias influencers, bias determinants, everything like that, every what inside of your strategy. That is what creates your trading plan. And your trading plan creates, or not creates, but you then formulate a how based on every what, aka your trading plan, which is then your trading models, right? So me, right, I come in here and I come in here. You develop this, which is why we don't introduce people to trading, period. And then there's this strategy, which is obviously the introduction videos. The trading plan is formulated via every single thing that is shown inside the course, right? This is where I come in, right? So now when I'm coming in here, right, the reason why I don't give models out, right, is because I have to do something called objectivize the curriculum. If I can objectivize a curriculum, that means I can give you concepts, I can give you definitions, nope, concepts, definitions, slash meanings. And I can give you my, I don't want to say interpretation, but my way of using concepts, right? So I have to objectivize a curriculum. I have to create this or use or give you this so you can create what is called an interpretation. You formulate an interpretation via everything here. No, giving you, no, no, that's stupid, no. Concepts, definitions, and the way of using concepts gives you an interpretation, right? So you use this interpretation to create a trading plan, and then you have to then combine the concepts which make sense to you. Then you have to practice sequences you found to create this. So does that make sense? So when you're forcing concepts, then that means that you're too focused on trying to do this, just like I do. When you're forcing concept, that's literally what you're doing. You're trying to force your way into trading like me, but that's not the case, right? And the advantage here is if you go about this, let me actually change the color. If you go about this in the way that it is meant to be portrayed, then you create an interpretation, you create a trading plan, you use the trading plan to combine the concepts which make sense to you, to then find sequences and practice the sequences that you find to create trading models, right? And if you follow your trading models and you have a high level of discipline, then you become a better trader than I am. You become a better trader than said admins, right? So that is why it's so key to go about this in in a certain way, because if you're stuck here, then you'll never reach here, you'll never reach here, you'll never reach here, you'll never reach here, and you will never reach here, your derivative. Does that make sense? Does that make sense for everybody? So do you see the point now? Do you see why me giving you signals does not make sense? Do you see why me giving you trading models does not make sense? Even if it's for backtesting purposes, that doesn't make sense. Like, I'm gonna make a whole video on this, but I'll probably post it on YouTube, to be honest. I do have a couple of videos for you guys, but I do need to, since it was my first week of school, I have to organize myself before I get to that. But yeah, this is the entire point here. This is the entire model, right? And what that even answers what I was about to ask next, but what is this? Model. Right? Haven't given it a name, but it's a model. Right? Interesting. This is why I emphasize models, because I'm using a model to give you a model. Right? You could use a model for anything. Like Sergio brings up mental models all the time. Right? The most recent one from that I can remember, I think, was inversion. But yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, I can go ahead and end the call here. Cool. See you guys on Tuesday. All right, let me stop recording.